Hi, my name is Warren Rehn. I'm president and CEO of Gold Minerals Company, and we're here to talk about our excellent quarter of production at Rodeo Line and our path forward as a profitable mining company. So I'm pleased to be here today with Matthew. Let's take it over from here.
Okay, well, good to see. We've followed this story because it's been an interesting one. It's not a natural sort of straight line through to the end game here. It seems like there are multiple and variable parts. It's a kind of stepping stones to where you need to be. So I want to kind of remind people of that in a second. But talk to me about the macro at the moment, Warren, because the gold market has, we've had 2 or 3 days of, rising price, but it's been moving sideways for the last 2-3 months. Gold bugs are a little bit quiet at the moment. What's happening out there?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I think there's a lot of uncertainty still, and that's the big part here. We have the inflationary backdrop, but it hasn't been a consistent picture, and there's a variety of opinions out there. In my view, a lot of investors are waiting to see exactly how the Fed reacts to this and what it will really mean in terms of the interest rate and therefore, the rise or fall of the price of gold. Personally, I'm very bullish on the gold price, and I am, very much in the camp with the big banks thinking that we'll see $2,000 gold toward the end of the year again as a result of the inflationary pressures. Before interest rates get too high. So that's my feeling about where we are. So it's a waiting period, and we just haven't caught up. The investor community hasn't caught up with the exact fundamentals, and there's that uncertainty from the Fed side.
It's kind of interesting. There's so much conflicting information out there. You've got a UBS saying, step away from gold. It's going to go back down to 1600. You've got Goldman's going, it's going to 2000. Those are two pretty bright sets of people with, contrary views about what's happening, using the same data, but ending up in different points. Do you care if it goes down to 1600?
We're fine. We're fine at 1600 at Rodeo. We have a huge margin. We're producing gold for about $900 an ounce now. We think we can reduce those prices on a per ounce basis. We've just now gotten to steady state in the second quarter of this year, after a very successful ramp up, and we'll continue to optimize. So I'm not worried about $1,600 gold. If it does get to 1600, it will be transitory, temporary. And I'm very confident that we'll see higher prices going forward, given the inflationary pressures and the huge amount of cash that's out there free in the world. Okay.
Well, this brings us nicely on to, and I know that your studies have been done at 1600, certainly on Rodeo, and I think at something like 13.5 for Velardeña. But let's remind people of the strategy here. I gave reference to it earlier. I said it's not an almost kind of straight line process. It's not, one asset, one jurisdiction. You go from exploration through to production. You've got a portfolio of projects. Rodeo, it's a 2-year life of mine, right? But that's the first one you're targeting. Why is that? Remind us.
So the beauty of Rodeo was the very low capital cost to start. And it's incredibly rare to find a project that you can start for $1 million US. And that's what we did. $1.5 million spent to get started. We broke even in the first quarter. We made money in the second quarter. We'll be profitable as a company based on this mine's production this year. Now, that's incredibly rare. It's very important, and it gives us the potential to produce the cash without going back to markets for additional equity funding. That lets us continue our exploration strategy with our multiple assets, as you mentioned, Matthew, and get Velardeña, the bigger prize, into production, hopefully late this year, early next, without going into debt, getting another dilutive capital raise. And that's hugely important for the company and for the shareholders.
Okay, but 2-year life of mine on Rodeo, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, so we're exploring right now. We can expand it. We know we can. We know there's more there. It's a matter of doing the drilling, the detailed drilling that we have to do to get to that point. So we started, with a single core rig in March this year. It was slow going. Frankly, it's silicified rock. It's very hard. It takes quite a bit of time to drill a single hole. We just brought in a reverse circulation rig, drills 5 times faster. We'll get this data in a hurry now that we don't need the structure structural information. We can avoid, we don't have to do everything in core. We can use the reverse circulation drilling, which gives us drill chips instead of core, and just get the assays. And that's enough data for us going forward. So we're still a couple of months away from actually getting the resource, increased resource out there to understand it and see how much we might be able to expand the mine. But I'm confident that we will. Indications are from the first batch of results we published in June that we had good results on structures parallel on either side of the current open pit. And I'm confident we'll continue. So a couple months down the road, we'll know how much more mine life we can get out of Rodeo. But frankly, we have enough cash flow from Rodeo in the current mine life at 2.5 years from startup to get us going at Velardeña.
Okay,
and that's great.
Okay, so you're looking to expand the resource there, extend the life of mine, and therefore the kind of revenue potential that you're going to have. So what's that money being used for? When you say we're going to use it to develop Velardeña, but you're also saying potentially get into production this year, potentially early next year at Velardeña. What have you yet got to do to enable yourself to get into production?
Yeah, so there's always a working capital startup cost of bringing a mine into operation because you start spending money before you get money back from selling concentrates. And it's perhaps a 2 to 3 month lag period, depending on how you have your sales organized. So that's part of it. Working capital, there's some development cost. We don't need it right away in the underground development at Velardeña because we are in stoping areas right now with the current development. But for steady state, for the life of mine, you have to have continuing development as you mine. So that's an additional cost. But the bigger part of the picture is to pay for the bio-oxidation process plant that we want to build. So that's what we're doing now. We're doing the final testing on that to get the engineering specs so we can have the construction design for that plant. And we estimated at first it would cost about $6 million to build over the course of next year. So we're getting that detail. And then once we have that at a feasibility level, we'll make the decision to go or not go. So it's about $10 million that we'll need to get comfortably going on Velardeña with the bio-oxidation plant built. But we can spend that over the course of next year and fund it internally from Rodeo and from the lead, zinc, silver sales of concentrates from Velardeña itself. While we wait for the gold portion, that's what we get out of the bio-oxidation plant.
Okay, so this story has been about the bio-oxidation solution. For the last few years, people are waiting for you to say, right, we have cracked the code. Have you cracked the code? Because you got to get that balance between, throughput, and recovery rates and so forth. So when can you sort of come back to us and say, do you know what, we're at a point where we think we're comfortable with what this solution is going to give us?
I think we're comfortable now at the general aspects of the solution. I'm now looking for details. I want a very specific cost estimate. We have a general cost estimate. I want to know, plus or minus $500,000 what it's going to cost, not plus or minus more. So that's important to me. I want to know, the size of tanks that we have to build, how much residence time in the bio-oxidation circuit we need, because that actually determines the cost of the bio-ox plant. So we know this is the way to go forward. What we're just trying to detail here are, those details of how to build it, what the sizes have to be, and a much more precise cost of the plant. And that's what we'll have late this year, from our ongoing work with Uditech in South Africa.
Right. And this kind of optimization process you're going through, you're saying you'll be where you need to be at the end of this year, or will it take a little bit more time to actually iron out those last few percentage points?
Yeah, always when you're working with third-party providers, especially in the current world environment, there's been delays. So it could be early next year. Now, I had been planning late this year for quite some time now. It could slip over, Matthew. You're absolutely right. But anyway, I still expect to have the go, no-go decision on Velardeña itself, producing the lead, zinc, silver concentrates without needing the BIOX plant, and show that that is a profitable opportunity for the company while we build the BIOX plant. So that brings a whole startup operation 1 year forward to our initial planning, which we thought would probably be 2023 with Bio-Ox plant complete. So we can operate and make additional funds from Velardeña in the meantime. So that's what my vision is now. And that's what we're working for.
Okay, so the feasibility study on the Bio-Ox design will allow you to make a production decision, and at that point we will understand the economics, or will it be come out with a feasibility when you announce that? In terms of because you got to nail down the numbers, right?
A lot. Yeah, we want to nail down those numbers, and that should be late this year, early next, when we have that absolutely nailed down, what the Bio-Ox will cost and what the results will be. We have a very good idea of what it looks like now based on our previous 2 studies, but I want the fine details, frankly.
Yeah.
So there's no surprises.
Okay, and I mean, based on the previous studies, I mean, what sort of numbers are we talking about coming in? Because there's obviously a much bigger project, longer life of mine than Rodeo. So what sort of quantums are we talking about? What kind of timelines are we talking about in terms of life of mine?
Yeah, so based on the PEA that was published in 2020, which is the basis for most of this discussion, we know that Velardeña can produce about 2 million ounces of silver per year, ounces equivalent, because half of that's in gold and half that's in silver. And I'm not talking about the lead and zinc, which is additional product that does have an economic benefit, but it's minor. So that 2 million ounces equivalent of silver is produced at somewhere less than $10 per silver ounce. So you can see right there, given a $23 per ounce silver price, that we have a very nice margin and a more significant net cash flow stream from Velardeña in the full operational possibility than we have at Rodeo. Now, about half of that is what we can produce without the Bio-Ox plant. So that's still plus 10 million a year in net cash flow from the lead, zinc, silver sales, according to the PEA results that we had from last year. So a very nice start. And then we double that once we have the Bio-Ox portion in place and operating correctly. So what the Bio-Ox does for us, it gives us that 90% recovery of gold, which we otherwise don't have. That's the advantage, and additional silver as well.
So how quick is that payback on all of that CapEx and that outlay that you're going to have to put in place?
It's about a 1 year payback, Matthew. It's really fast, right? Or even a little bit less, frankly. Because if we're making 20 million, once it's up and running, 20 million net cash flow from the operation, it only cost us 10 to get it up and running. Half a year.
Okay.
It's fast.
We've had enough conversations in the past where we've talked about business plans and strategies and team and the bio-oxidation process itself. So I don't want to cover old ground there, but perhaps because we're a little bit further advanced, what are you going to do with the rest of the portfolio if you can get Velardeña right? If you can get this cash flowing, what's the timing on those things? What are the options that you've got? Because obviously, Quevar is the sort of number 3 on in terms of priority, always with the conversations around. Is that still the case? What about the rest of the projects?
It is. Quevar it's in Barrick's hands right now because of the option we have with them, and they're still advancing the project and very keen on it. They're still looking for that huge gold deposit that they think is there. We expect to see them move into a drill stage perhaps next year. They have plenty of time to do what they need to do. The beauty there is that we still have the value there. We'll get it back if they don't find what they're looking for, and if they do find what they're looking for, well, the world is our oyster, as it were. And the other projects that we have, both in Mexico and in Argentina, are very interesting in their own right. The Yoquivo district in Mexico is a district where we released first pass drill results in January of last year. We're planning to go back and follow up on that. There were very interesting results in an epithermal gold vein system, very high grades, and in a new series of veins parallel to the existing ones. So we will drill there later this year. I've had to delay that a bit based on the extended drilling at Rodeo and based on a contract situation in Argentina where we needed to drill another project that we've had there, Cerrita Este, which is adjacent to First Quantum's Taca Taca giant copper deposit. with a very interesting, copper prospect and a high sulfidation gold silver prospect. We're drilling there now. We'll continue to advance our opportunities through exploration as we can afford it. And given the cash flow we have now, we can, without having to go to the market for funding just specifically for that, for equity funding. So I think, that's the beauty of having this cash flow and having a very interesting portfolio of projects, both in Mexico and Argentina, that we can move forward, without going back to the market.
It's going to be interesting, actually, when the kind of gold market does recover, gold price does recover, and the gold market does recover, how people view you. Because like I said, it's a seemingly complicated, multifaceted story. But the reality is you've gone from, you've gone through exploration, discovery, and into production, which is no mean feat in the sense that, so the project has. You've developed it, produced gold now. So we saw the numbers announced in July, gold and silver numbers. Do you think people should appreciate that component? Because we have a lot of companies come on and talk to us about their exploration hopes and dreams, but they don't actually go anywhere usually.
The reality of actually being in production is fantastic for the company, and as you point out, it's not an easy feat to do, especially at a low capital spend. That was the beauty of Rodeo. And I think it is underappreciated. We've actually done exactly what we said we would do, and we're continuing to do so. So in my view, we are underappreciated. The value of Rodeo, even though it's a fairly short mine life, is that it gives us the cash to do these other things without the extremely dilutive capital raises. So that's the beauty. And the Rodeo operation itself has been ticking along perfectly. We've had basically no problems whatsoever once we had that mill up and running to full capacity at the end of April. And we've exceeded our process estimations on a daily basis. We had planned 450 tons per day. We ran through the mill at 550 tons per day through May and June. So, significantly over initial estimations, and that let us beat production metrics basically. So we've been doing very, very well on that end, and I think it is a bit underappreciated. We're spot on target for our gold production estimates for the year, which will translate to the profitability that we had been talking about for the company for the year as well, giving us the opportunity to advance the other projects as we're talking about, Matthew. So it looks complicated, but we're executing perfectly on it. I think it's going very well for the company, and I do think we should be appreciated a bit more than we are.